Well, we are live on day number 153, and you are going to enjoy this today. We have perhaps the world's greatest nocturne artist. How's that for setting you up?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Meet Carl Bretzke. Carl, welcome to the to the Daily. I don't have a name for the Daily, so it's just the Daily.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So tell us where you are.
So I am in my downtown studio in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are we going to talk about today?
Well, as you know, I did the video on painting nocturnes, and today I'm just going to do a small excerpt from that where I show you how to paint a halo or a glow effect around a light.
Oh, cool. All right. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. First, I'm going to just drop Carl off and take care of some business. Carl, we'll be back with you in just a second. Thank you for doing this today. So I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air magazines. Welcome to day number 153 for 153 days in a row, nonstop, no breaks. We have been offering you some things to kind of keep your head in the game, keep you focused, keep you growing, keep you learning about art. And we're hearing from people all over the world who have some who have started painting and drawing for the first time because of watching these dailies at noon or our 3 p.m. daily where we're doing art instruction videos. We've heard from people who have said they have picked up painting and drawing that they had started when they were young, but they have not done it in years. We've had people who tell us that, you know, it's kept their head in the game. It's kept them positive and feeling good about themselves. You know, there's a lot going on in the world right now. There's no doubt. But what we want to do is keep you in a good spirit, a good state of mind. You know, there are a lot of things that we can't control, but what we can control is our state of mind by not allowing ourselves to be worried. So in my particular case, I'm recommending stay off the media. You know, the media is taking everything and exploding it into probably much worse than it is in some cases. And, you know, it's fine to not put your head in the sand and know what's going on, but sitting there for hours on end, just getting gloomier and gloomier doesn't do your head any good, certainly doesn't do mine any good. And so I'm doing that. I'm trying to stay off of social media as much as possible. And I am deleting everything about negativity, politics, anything, because I just don't want to do anything. So if you're one of those people that I've deleted, sorry. Anyway, so today we've got a winner. Yesterday I announced I'm giving away an easel brush clip, and the winner is Angie Riserbeto from Florida. Angie, you're going to get one of these in the mail. This is an easel brush clip. You clip it onto your easel. You can clip it onto your studio easel. You can clip it onto your plein air easel and put your brushes in them so you have them right there in front of you and they don't fall to the ground. So that's something you're going to be getting in the mail. So congratulations. Today's prize, I will be giving away a copy of this, my book, Make More Money Selling Your Art. And this is essentially the starting place. If you decide that you want to be selling your art, you want to be making a living as an artist, or maybe supplementing your income as an artist, this is the first investment you make. It's a $25 investment, and it's something that will really jumpstart you. There's 1,000 ideas in here. All you need are 1 or 2 of them, and those will really get you started. So I'll be giving that away tomorrow. Today at 3 p.m., we have Dramatic Seascapes with Gene Perry, and our daily videos are found on Facebook and YouTube at Streamline Art Videos. So you go to those platforms, YouTube or Facebook, and you put in Streamline Art Video and you can find them there. I want to show you a picture of Gene Perry's video, if I can find it. Well, I'm not finding it, but here's a picture of Gene Perry. And so that's an opportunity to see her painting seascapes. I personally was present for the shoot of this particular video, and there's quite a story behind it. We were in Maine to paint together, and essentially it started raining. So I ran quickly out to Home Depot, which was about an hour away, and got a tent, and we put the tent up, and we basically shot the entire video under the tent. You would never know the difference. except maybe there's a little bit of a green cast on the painting. I'm not sure. Anyway, so that'll be today at 3 o'clock. And also want to mention to you that we have announced some new faculty members. We have an event called Realism Live, and there's more that are not even shown on this that are going to be announced in the next day or so. But Daniel Sprick, Juliet Aristides, Daniel Gerhartz, Daniel Graves, founder of the Florence Academy, Victoria Herrera, Rose Franson, Graydon Parrish, Joshua LaRock, Kathy Odom, and Connor Walton. Now, you notice that a couple of them have little flags on there. You may not be able to see it on your screen, but Connor has an Irish flag. Daniel has an Italian flag. We are bringing instructors in from all over the world for this virtual conference. And the event will take place on the 21st and through 24th of October. It goes about 6 or 7 hours every day. We get interactive with you, so we actually have you interacting with other people on screen and having an opportunity to talk to one another. We also do a Zoom painting together and a cocktail hour at the end of the day. But the rest of it is not on Zoom. It's on a very heavily produced platform and very high quality. And so you're going to get a great experience. Anyway, make sure that you get signed up for Realism Live because, well, August 30th is when the price goes up. And people are jamming in, man. We've had a lot of people jam in and sign up at the last minute. So, oh, I just found this is the painting you're going to learn today at 3 p.m., Jean Perry. Anyway, so what else do I have to say? Well, I have just discovered recently that we are in 278 Michaels stores with Plein Air Magazine. This has just happened. I thought it was going to happen in October, but they're actually in some of the stores now. And so if you have not seen a copy of Plein Air Magazine, it's the only art magazine in Michaels stores, from what I can tell. And it may not be in every store, but it's in 278 stores across America. I don't know the answer to whether or not it's in Canada, but make sure that if you haven't seen it, pick one up. We're real proud to be in there. Plein Air is the #1 selling art magazine at Barnes & Noble, outsells all art magazines, including all photography magazines in the art and photography category. So we're really happy with that. Of course, if you want a subscription, we'd love to have you get one. A reminder that I have a podcast every week, wherever podcasts are found, Apple, Spotify, etc. And it's the Plein Air podcast. So check that out. Also, I have one called the Art Marketing Minute. And that's where I talk about marketing ideas, and you can get those podcasts wherever podcasts are found. And in the month of August, and you've only got a few more days to get this done, go to paintinggiveaway.com. We're giving away a painting worth $6,000 from Karl Dempwolf, and he made the painting and the frame. So make sure you go there and sign up before the end of the month. You only need to do it one time. Okay, I think I have all my announcements out of the way. Now, I'm going to get back to Carl Bretzke. Carl, so let's talk about that video that you did because you mentioned it earlier. This is a picture of the screen. Yeah, it's kind of odd, big split screen like that. But here is a better picture of the painting. And Carl is very, very well known for his nocturne paintings. He does all kinds of paintings, but he does a lot of nocturnes. These are 2 demos that he did on the video. And today, Carl is going to talk to us about nocturne painting, which is something that a lot of painters have not yet tried. And at my events, the Adirondack Plein Air event and the Fall Color Week event, and at Plein Air Convention, we always do nocturne painting because I want people to try it and learn it. I've been out on the dock, Carl. You can't see it in the background, but I've got a nocturne painting in the background that I did out here on the dock recently. And it just is so nice to be able to paint at night. So you're going to talk a little bit about some principles in nocturnes. Is that right?
One principle. I'm going to talk about how to create a glow around a light source.
Oh, cool.
But, that's a small segment of what is in my video. I've got 9 hours of content in the video. So if you want to learn more about all those other things, certainly pick up my video from Streamline.
Yes, and I'll make sure I put a link on sometime while you're teaching so that you can do that. Well, why don't we get started?
Very good.
And by the way, I will read questions from the comments as they come in randomly.
Great. So
All right.
we'll get started. And what I'm trying to teach you today is how to create a glow around a light source so that your nocturnes will look more realistic. Before I was a full-time artist, I was in medicine, and we were taught early on that you only see what you know. And I believe that's true in painting also. So I try to understand my subject better, then I'll see it better, and then hopefully paint it better. So when I talk to you about these light halos or the glow around lights today, I want to talk to you first about what causes them, and then I'll talk to you about what to observe in them before you paint, and then how to paint them. So let's talk about the why. There's essentially two reasons I've come up with that you'll see a halo around a light source. And the first one is kind of intuitive. If you think about the moon, you can always pretty much see a glow around the moon. And in the picture below it, I've taken my finger and I've covered the moon with my finger between the lens of the camera and the moon, and you still see the glow. So that tells you that the light from the moon, some of it travels sideways, hits particles in the atmosphere, and then back to your eye. So that'll be one cause of a glow. So interestingly, when I first started painting night scenes in the city outside, I was looking at street lights, and I was trying to figure out what color the halo was around the street light, but the light was so bright it was bothering my eyes. So I covered the light source with my finger like I did with the moon here, and what happens? The halo completely disappears. So that's the second cause of a light halo. And in the second case, that was due to refraction of light in my eye itself. Now, you have to believe me on this, but I am going to take you back to my dark closet. I have a light set up in there, and I'm just going to demonstrate that halo to you. So I'm going to take you for a walk.
A beautiful studio.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, we're lucky. All right, so there's a light source, and you can see that, first of all, ignore the sunburst pattern, but you can still see a glow around that light source. And just to prove to you that that's in the lens of the camera and not in the air around the light, I'm just going to cover the light source with my finger, and it should all disappear, right?
Yep.
It all disappears. So that shows you that the second cause then is refraction of light in your eye. Now, once in a while, you can have both. Let's say you're looking at a street light and you see a glow around it, but it's also a foggy day. If there's so much moisture or particles in the atmosphere, you'll also see particle scatter like we do with the moon. And I just spray a little bit of moisture here. Okay, so that gets denser. And now if I cover that light source again and make the halo disappear, and now we'll spray. Oops, sorry, there we go. You still see it. So that you can have the halo, and now we're going to talk about what to observe in the halo that will help you with your painting.
Excellent.
So this is a photograph of a light source outside. It's a street light, and I've now made it into a grayscale picture. And you can see that, and this is the grayscale underneath from 1 to 10. If the light source is a 1 on the grayscale and the sky is a 10, then the halo starts at about a 6. So it's not a gradual transition from 1 to 2 to 3 and so forth. It's a big jump from the light source to the halo, which tells you the halo isn't very bright, right? But it is brighter than the dark sky behind it. The other thing to consider when you're observing the halo is what color is the halo, and that will depend on what color the light source is. And for those of you that aren't familiar with prismatic color shift, if you take a color wheel, which is really the colors of the rainbow in sequence, and if you have a color that shifts from yellow to orange to red, that's a prismatic color shift. It might shift from green to blue to violet. That's also what I would call a prismatic color shift. And the reason I tell you that is that with these light halos, you will see a prismatic color shift. So let's look at this one. this is a yellowy white light. So the halo isn't yellow and white mixed with sky color. Instead, you'll transition from yellow to orange to red to kind of an alizarin, and then finally sky. So that's a prismatic shift. So what if this was a cool light that doesn't have much red in it? Well, then that still would shift prismatically, but now it might be from kind of a light greenish blue to a medium blue to a violety dark blue. Also a prismatic shift, it's just on this side of the prism. So those are the basic things to know about observing the halo. And once you figure out what color the light is, try to see that prismatic shift.
Do you find, Carl, that it's one or the other? It's typically you're either getting a warm or cool source, and the colors are pretty much the same in every situation, or do they shift considerably each time?
They change quite a bit, but I would say the most common are the two I just mentioned, and then there's a few hybrids in between. It kind of all depends what the makeup of the light is. Some light has lots of orange yellow in it and maybe just a little blue. Some has all blue with just a little yellow. So it depends on what that composition is inside the light bulb. But in general, just look for a prismatic shift that somehow follows the sequence of a rainbow.
Okay.
All right. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and start doing a demo.
All right.
All right. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to paint 3 light sources. I'm going to paint one yellow light the wrong way, which I almost hate to do, but I think it's important because when I do workshops, lots of people try to do it this way until we make a correction. I'm then going to show you how to paint them for a warm light and then for a cool light. All right. Okay. So we'll get started. I always tell people that when we paint nocturnes outside, I don't want very much impasto in my painting because that impasto creates little grooves from your paintbrush that will catch light and give you glare where you don't want it. So I try to paint.
For those people who don't know what impasto is, do you want to explain that briefly?
You have thick paint and you put it down with a brush, you'll see the brush mark, and the brush mark itself will reflect light. Mm-hmm. So I want my paint to look as flat as possible for at least these early stages of a nocturne. So I'm going to start with very thin paint. I'm going to use turpentine in this case, which I hate to do in the studio, but for this video, I'm going to do it. And the fun part about nocturnes is by the time you block in the dark sky and a little bit dark on the ground plane, you have a large percentage of your painting done. So I'm going
to interrupt you with questions from time to time. You mentioned you don't like to use turpentine in the studio, but you'll use it outdoors. Can you explain?
In the studio, when I have lots of time, I will use, if I'm doing a painting where I want thin paint, I'll use Gamsol and I might mix a little Gelkid in with it, something that will dry it a little quicker. Then I can paint a second layer over this first layer and get a little bit more unity in that paint layer. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just start. This is gonna be a very thin application, maybe a little thicker than that. And I'm gonna leave a little opening for my light source. And I just wanna give myself some reminder of where the light pole is, because I'm gonna put that in at the end.
And what is the color you're using now?
So good question. All I can tell you is that I try to avoid any single color out of the tube as my sky color. So this ends up being a mixture of many different colors. I've probably got a little bit of alizarin, ultramarine, even some cobalt and manganese. I have every dark I have on my palette, I kind of mix it together. And I can vary that a little bit depending on what I think the overall cast of color is to the sky. But most often it tends to be kind of a blue or bluish violet. I'm sure you probably know Jesse Powell. He always paints his skies green, and he warms them up with earth colors and they look right. So I don't think there's any definite color you should be using. Just use something that's dark enough. And like I said, this is kind of the easy part. It's like putting paint on a house. I'm not being very careful yet. All the care comes later when I'm painting the light portion of this painting. Okay.
Do you always try to keep your darks transparent?
No, they just turn out that way initially because I'm putting it on so thin. But by the time I put the second coat on this, it'll look very homogeneous. Now, the ground plane, there's going to be a little bit of light spilling onto the ground below these lights. Just going to indicate that. But then the ground plane at night has lots of sky color in it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this down, darker in the foreground, and then it kind of fades off towards the light and actually picks up a little bit of light over there. All right, so I think I have enough sky in to get started with the light halos. All right, so I told you that there's a wrong way to do this. So let's start with the wrong way, sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and put down a whitish yellow color as a light source. And I'm gonna put it right here. And let's paint the ground. Let's say it's grass. And I'll just put a little grass down. All the way across. And let's say that pole that sits on is kind of a yellowy brown. I'm going to put all of them in at once. Okay. Now, already I can tell you that some people would leave their nocturne light like this, just a dot of brightness in the darkness, which doesn't look at all like a convincing light effect. I think you'll agree. So one thing you can do then is add a halo. And I told you that if you just took that yellowy white and mixed it with sky color, that would be wrong. Because when you do that, you get this kind of ugly gray. Remember, this is wrong. At some point, I'm going to be showing you that I use a blending technique to create these halos. So just to be fair to the correct way, I'm going to go ahead and blend a little bit of sky color back over this, so that at least I have a transition. Okay, so there, very ugly.
Is your surface a canvas panel?
This is just a masonite panel that I've put an oil primer on it.
Okay.
Typically, I would use a linen covered panel for most of my plein air events. They're much lighter, easier to transport. Let's go ahead and do the correct way to do this now. One thing you'll notice right away is that I'm going to start with, I'm not going to start with the light source itself. I'm going to start with the first lit ring of the halo. And I'm going to make it a prismatic transition. So what I'm going to do is I'll start with yellow. This is cad yellow. And I'll just make a ring around the light source. And now I'm going to go prismatically down my palette. And I do lay my palette out in a prismatic sequence, so this is quite easy to do. And I don't care if I get these things mixing together a little bit, because in the end, I'm going to blend it with a big brush. So now I've got orange, kind of an orangey red, and now I'm going to go to alizarin. And each time I add a layer, I'll make it a little bit whiter and a little less round, because in the end, I don't really want something that looks like a bullseye.
You said a little whiter?
A little wider. Sorry.
Wider, okay.
Yeah. So the inner layer was a thin layer of yellow. The next layer was a little bit thicker, a wider layer of orangey red, and now even a wider layer of alizarin. Okay. And that looks terrible, doesn't it? So now I'm not done. Now I'm going to take that same brush I used to put the sky in with, and I'm going to put down another layer over this first layer. And already with turpentine, this is dry enough I can easily paint over it. So I'm going to actually take that sky color and I'm going to put it over this prismatic color that I just put down. I'll even get a little bit touching that yellow part. And it's still going to look bad because I'm still not done.
I can't imagine you doing anything that would look bad.
Yeah. All right, and then I'm going to just finish the rest of the sky around it just to show you that it does become much more homogeneous with more paint.
You guys make sure you put your questions in and also comments. Tell us where you're from. I see Saudi Arabia in there. Every day she's there.
Next step, I'm going to blend this, and I've got a 1.5 inch brush. It's synthetic. It's very soft. And I'm going to just grab a paper towel because occasionally I wipe it. I'm going to keep one end of the brush towards the middle of this light so that I don't end up flipping it over and then putting dark where the light is and light where the dark is. I'm going to keep it one direction. I'm just going to start moving it around. I'm going to give it a little white. Come out a little bit further. Already it's starting to look a little more like glow, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, let's stop there for a minute. And now I'm going to put down that impasto, bright whitish yellow in the middle as my light source.
So you've taken a titanium or something and then just put a touch of yellow in it?
Correct. Titanium, and you can, depending on, if you have a cool light, I might use cad yellow light. If I have a warmer light, I'll just use cad yellow. This is mostly cad yellow and white. Okay, so there's the light source. So you can see the difference already between this one and this one.
Yeah.
You can tell which one looks better, I know. Let's go ahead and put some color on that light post. Now the light post isn't part of the halo. This is something illuminated by that light source. And it can be, should be, usually brighter than the halo. So I'm just going to go straight into cad yellow. And I'm going to start this like so. And as I go down, I'm going to prismatically shift the color on the post as well. So I'm now going to add a little bit of red to this. And then as I go down further, I'm going to add a little sky color to it. And that's kind of a convincing pole with some light hitting the top of it. I'm going to reinforce that a little bit. Okay. One more thing to do, and that's to fix the illumination of the grass below the light. And if you have green grass, but it's being hit by a warm yellow light, that green has to end up skewing more towards yellow. So I'm just going to add yellow to my grass just underneath the light. And as I go away from the brightest portion, I'm also going to prismatically shift that color. more to red. And remember that happens side to side, but it also happens front to back, so I'll put a thin layer front to back. And I might reinforce that a little bit more with some green. A little more yellow. So there, that's a warm light, and it's illuminating the grasses with warm light as well.
Mm.
All right, so nowadays, with the advent of LED lighting, I think we're all seeing a lot of cool light, especially on street lights and so forth. So I'm going to show you the glow around a cool light.
Now, will you ever see a scene that you say, you know, I would prefer it to be a warm light, so I'm going to make it warm even though it reads cool?
I haven't done that yet, because I usually have something in the scene besides the light, obviously, something illuminated by it, and that would change the whole color spectrum of what's illuminated. So I try to stick pretty close with what I'm seeing.
Okay.
All right. So I told you that with a cool light, there's not much red or orange in that color spectrum. So we're going to start the halo, in this case with my light blue, which is manganese. And if people don't know what manganese is, it's similar to cerulean. It's kind of a light blue that has maybe a little bit of yellow in it. I'm sure the paint guys are saying, no, it doesn't, but it looks kind of yellowy to me.
I'm told that manganese is a product that a lot of the manufacturers are going to stop making. I was over at the old Holland factory, and they told me that they were having trouble getting manganese. And so it may be a color that
maybe going
away for much longer.
But there'll be colors that will look just like it. So
yeah.
And cerulean isn't that different. So I'm adding a little white to this manganese. I'll tell you that most of the time when I'm painting nocturnes, I don't like to add white to things unless I absolutely have to, because in the end, it'll kind of gray all your dark colors. So avoid it when you can, but when you need it, you need it. So the inner part of a halo on a cool light, I definitely add a little bit of white. Okay. So in my palette, the prismatic sequence goes from manganese to cobalt. So I'm going to go to cobalt next. Might add a little white to that. A little more. There we go. And then I'm going to go to ultramarine. I may add just a little violet to that. And again, that's the prismatic sequence. I realize now I could have used a little larger brush for all of this, but I think this is still working.
Works for me.
All right.
Question, Sharon says, would you do the same thing with light coming from a window in the evening?
Yes, you do. If you look at a painting where there is light coming out of the window at night, and you think that looks like that really glows, look very carefully, and you'll probably see, for instance, yellow light in the window, and then right at the sill, you might see a little ring of orange, and then diffuses off into the color of the side of the building. And I've used that myself, but that's what creates the glow, is to have the value shift and the prismatic color shift somehow.
Somebody's asking what brush you prefer for this technique.
You know, I'm all over the place with my brushes, but when it comes to doing the blending, if I do blend, you need a soft brush. So if I'm blending a big area, I can use an inexpensive synthetic brush. If I'm kind of working on something smaller, I've got a badger hair brush, or you can use a sable. So soft brushes have their place when you're trying to create this halo effect using blending.
Somebody said that they're experiencing some very interesting painting daytime and nighttime because they're in California with the fires going on. So there's a lot of smoke in the air, and it's changing the way they have to use colors. Red fiery suns.
And that's all related to the scattering of light in the atmosphere. The more particles, the more scatter there is, and that means only the longer wavelengths of light will get through. So you see a lot more of the yellows and oranges and reds through the atmosphere in those cases.
So somebody's asking, how would you address a painting with two light sources, night setting on a boat with a moon and light from the boat?
Well, I paint them. I have many paintings like that. I just paint them separately, and where they merge, sometimes I'll actually add a little of each color.
Okay.
Good question.
Would you get the same chromatic shift from the sun if it's peeking out behind clouds?
You definitely do. Yep. And in fact, think of all those painters where you've seen them paint sun near sunset, and that light is filtering through trees, and they'll paint the trees red and orange right where the light is filtering through. It's the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's a prismatic color shift related to the halo being created in your eye mainly. All right. So,
you know, there's not a lot of people that I see teaching prismatic color. Is this something you learned from Joe Paquette? Is this something you picked up elsewhere?
definitely, Joe. All right. So the lineage kind of goes, Frank Dumont, he first taught the prismatic palette. And all the prismatic palette means is you lay your colors out in a prismatic sequence. So for me, I lay them out yellow to orange to red to alizarin, and then I do a separate line for the blues. I go from the light manganese blue to cobalt to ultramarine and then violet. But those are kind of chromatic strings. And Frank Vincent Dumont used to say to his students, he would say, silently glowing over this whole landscape is a rainbow. You must learn to see it. It is always there. And I think that's really true in these light halos. And it's true in general with light at night. It's actually easier to see at night than it is during the day because light drops off so quickly at night because there isn't much intensity to these artificial lights compared to the sun. So it's a good place to start if you want to learn how to paint prismatically.
So you started to say that it started with Dumont.
Frank Dumont, and then Frank Mason, and I guess I stopped, didn't I? Yeah, Frank Mason, John Osborne, Joe Paquette, and then me, and of course thousands of other people off of each branch. So lots of people use a prismatic palette nowadays. And if you don't do it on purpose, lots of people will put out 2 yellows, 2 reds, 2 blues, and in a way that is kind of a prismatic palette.
Okay.
All right, so I'm now blending this cooler halo. Notice I don't get it perfect. I think there's something that looks a little more real if it's not quite perfect. All right, and now I will put some impasto down. And this time I'm going to use pretty much straight titanium white with just a little cad yellow light. Even these cool lights, I feel like I see just a little yellow in them. Okay. Is that coming through okay? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to just hold it up once closer. You see the warm one, you see the cool one, right?
Yep.
All right, now I'm going to just finish it off. I'll put the colors down on that pole. So I'm going to go with a little bit of brown and light blue mixed together. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt. And then let's go right to a sky color mixed with that. And then,
so this is fascinating because it's not just a value shift; it's a prismatic palette shift as well.
yeah, that's key, and I think that's what's different about the way I'm showing people to paint nocturnes.
You guys are learning something here that not very many people talk about. So this is really fascinating. Thank you for this. This is good.
So now I'm going to put a little bit of blues into the grass.
Okay.
And see what that looks like.
Somebody asked, is moonlight cool or warm?
Depends what you're comparing it to, I guess. I don't know. Usually, I mean, we've all looked at the moon before and thought, oh, that moon looks a little bit kind of yellowy tonight. And other times it doesn't look quite that way. So I don't know. Definitely cool relative to the sun. All right. So there's a cool patch, and I'm just going to prismatically move out now to cobalt. And then
you guys want to see a really good example of the prismatic, the rainbow coming from the light source. If you look at this video, Carl can't see it, but if you look at this right by the end of the word cool, stand where you are. Yeah. Right by the end of the word cool, the L, and you go upwards in that streak of light, you can see it go through the band of colors.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You can see prismatic color separation in these little rays of light. That's true. Yeah. So
I pointed that out. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if it's projecting as clearly as I'm thinking, but this is what I wanted to show you. You can always add a little more light if you think it's brighter where it hits the ground. So my lesson to you would be, don't do it this way. That's wrong. If you do a halo, try to figure out what colors you're dealing with, and then shift them prismatically from the lighter color to a darker color as it blends with sky. And the brightest thing is always the light source itself. Everything is down from that, and especially the halo. The halo starts roughly halfway between the light source and the color of the background.
Excellent. Question about neon.
Yeah.
Somebody had a question here. Is there any trick to painting neon? Is it essentially the same thing?
Another great question that I answer in my video. Neon there's one difference, and that is that a neon tube, first of all, it doesn't emit very much light, so the light doesn't travel very far from it. But you'll still see a halo around it. The only difference is if you got a piece of halo right here, or a piece of neon right here, it's usually mounted to a board of some kind. And so just beneath the neon, you get a glow on the board that's going to be down in value from the neon. And then out beyond the neon and beyond the illuminated portion on the board, you'll still see even further glow out into the sky. And again, I blend that. And the only difference, it ends up being that the difference is it's a linear bulb, but the concepts are the same. You still see a halo. The only thing different is you might see one more band paralleling the bulb that represents bright illumination of the sign beneath it.
So what I'm going to do real quickly, I think this would be valuable, is I'm going to bring up the paintings that I showed earlier, and I'll bet everybody viewing them will see them differently now. So first I'm going to bring up, so you increased the light source there.
A little bit.
Okay, so first I'm going to bring up this. All right, so now are you seeing things in this that you had not seen before, had not noticed before? I am. I'm seeing things completely differently now.
Right, and that's kind of that classic warm light source that I showed you. And notice one thing, and that is that the alizarin, or that dark red that blends into the dark trees in the background, it goes out quite far. And if you start paying attention at night, you'll see that these halos extend very far away from the light, but they're just so close in value to the background color that you don't really notice a darkness or a lightness change. You just see a color change.
All right, now I'm going to show the neon one. And again, we can see it completely differently now, including the glow around the tail lights.
Right.
And you got the cool lights in the distance and the warm lights on the poles.
Yeah.
I guess that's a stop sign. The green from it.
That one caller's question, in that you can see I've got green stoplights in the background and I've got a warm street light next to it. At some point, the halos had to merge together, and I do kind of play them back and forth, a little bit of green in between both and a little bit of orange in between both.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to pull those off screen. Again, the video that Carl has, which came out about, I don't know, what, 3 months ago or so, right? 6 months ago. It's called Nocturnes, Painting in the Night, Carl Bretzke, and you can get that at lilyartvideo.com. Just search his name, Bretzke, or Nocturnes, and it will come up. All right. Carl, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much, and thank you to Christy for zooming in. Can we zoom in on that one more time so everybody can see?
Sure.
See it a little bit closer. You guys have any questions, put them in there. Yeah, it's even better when you can see it up close.
Great. Well, thanks for including me, Eric.
Yeah, this has been fabulous. So everybody should try this. Absolutely. I'm going to start seeing what I can learn about the prismatic palette. And so any recommendations on where to learn that? Obviously, for somebody who teaches it in a course or a video or a workshop. Any other ideas on that?
Well, of course, the Nocturne video, but
yes.
I mean, obviously, anyone I think that has learned from the lineage that I learned from, including Joe Paquette, they would certainly teach it. So
okay, excellent. Okay.
Well, actually, I have one more recommendation, and that is John Carlson's landscape book. He actually teaches the same thing. It's just not as, he doesn't have any color photographs in there, so it's a little harder to see, but he talks about it.
Yeah, maybe I should republish that with color photographs. I wonder if I could get them. Interesting. Okay, well, everybody, thumbs up and applause for Carl Bretzke. Carl, thank you, and Christy, thank you for assisting in the background. Carl, since you've got the free iPad, right, or the iPhone, they've got the video source. Can you give us a quick tour of your studio?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, this building, it was an old appliance storage building back in like 1920s. So it's got these really tall white oak ceilings. That's my mother-in-law's old chandelier. And I kind of use my studio as a gallery, but I hang work as I go so I can see what they look like in frames. And on any given day, I'll be touching up several of these paintings. So I bought it from a woman who'd use it as a photography studio, and there's a dark room in the back. I use that for my varnishing and so forth.
Oh, good. Show us a couple paintings.
All right.
Because we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, okay. This is a painting of a scene that I see when I drive out to my hometown, which is 60 miles away from here, right through rural Minnesota, and in the winter it looks like that. I'm working on a big painting for Grenning Gallery right now. I guess you're not going to see that very well. It's not in the light.
Oh, we started to see it. All right.
Nocturnes. This one was done plein air about a month ago. This was done for the Coors show last year. I don't know. What else you want to see?
Whatever you want to show us. I love it all.
Okay. This one, back when I used to take classes with Joe, we'd go to Kelly's Bar, and that was the hot turkey sandwich dinner that you could get on Thursdays. Oh, Christy just put that big painting up that I'm working on.
Oh, good. Oh, wow.
Yeah. What else? Oh, here is the painting from the video.
So what about sources? Are you using plein air paintings studies for your sources? Are you using any photographs?
I do use some photographs. You know, at least 1 week a month, I'm painting plein air only. And then during COVID, I've been outside quite a bit painting plein air. If I do a big piece for the studio, it's kind of hard to, like this last one is 40 by 60. So I wasn't going to do that outside. And I took reference photos, and some of it comes out of my head also, I guess. I'd say over half of what's hanging here is plein air.
What a beautiful space.
Yeah,
and filled with beautiful paintings.
Yeah, I feel very lucky.
Well, Karl, thank you so much. We've had a lot of positive comments. To see if there's any other. Oh, is there a plein air group in Minneapolis? Shannon Sinnock is asking about.
Yes, there's the Outdoor Painters of Minnesota.
All right.
They've been meeting almost weekly now at some site outside, and it's been really good.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Karl. This has been a real treat. We appreciate you being on today, and got people watching from all over the world. I just saw New Zealand chime in. And so thank you again for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Thanks. All right. That was Carl Bretzke, and what a fabulous treat it was. And thank you, Karl, for doing that. A couple of thoughts for you. We have a big virtual art conference, should be the world's largest virtual art conference with some of the top artists in the world teaching. It's called Realism Live. It's coming up October 21 through 24, 4 days. Plus, if you're a beginner and you want to learn about some of the different types of painting, you know, if we're going to be painting and drawing in landscape, doing, let's see, my brain is frozen for a second, still life, portraiture, figurative painting, florals. We have some, Kathy Anderson, I haven't officially announced, has just decided to join us in florals. Still life, Jeff Legg is joining us. So we have a beginner's day that will be teaching the basic concepts. So if you want to learn how to do the basics, and then we have the other days, if you do the beginner's days, then you'll be able to understand what's going on in the other days if you're not already painting. So that'd be good for all 5 of those days if you want to. It's at realismlive.com. Make sure to sign up also. We're giving away a painting. And if you want to win this painting, this is from Karl Dempwolf. It's a beautiful plein air piece. It's a 16 by 20, I believe, and it's a $6,000 painting. He's giving it away for us at paintinggiveaway.com in the month of August. You got to get that done before August 31st. And so make sure you do that. And remember that Karl's video, I just turned that off, but I should turn it on again. Karl's video is called Nocturnes, and you can get it at lilyartvideo.com. And it goes through 2 demos. It goes through this demo, and you can get it there at Lily Art Video. Just search Carl Bretzke or Nocturnes, and you should be able to find it. And thank you guys for watching today. And we have had fun doing 153 days in a row. We will continue. Tomorrow's guest is John Potoshnik. John is going to talk about color. And so I will bring up the prismatic palette to him and see what he's got to say about that as well. But John does some phenomenal things on color, trying to teach you something every day. I hope this is valuable. I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine. Have a really terrific day. And remember, keep your head in the game. Try to be upbeat and positive no matter what's going on. Make sure you take care of yourself and your mental health. Get exercise, get good food, get positive things going into your head. Don't fill your head with negatives, because that's the stuff that's going to hurt you the most. Have a terrific day. Thanks. Bye.